Hello, and welcome to the 1D4 podcast, where we roll a die and ramble about whatever topic it lands on. My name is Andrew, and joining me, as always, except this is the first episode, so we don't have any precedent, but joining me are Joe, Nick, Robbie. Today, we are discussing Avatar, The Last Airbender. So, just to give some background on all of our exposure to that show. I think our ages are very clear.
Mm-hmm.
All of y'all grew up watching it. I did as
totally.
well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon every week.
Mhm.
We were the target audience for the original show.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're well aware, they're making a Netflix adaptation. For better or for worse.
Yay!
So, what did you like about Avatar, The Last Airbender, in the time you watched it in the past? Any thoughts, feelings?
So overall, general feelings
complaints?
would be like it was a cool world with a cool premise of bending, and it was a pretty good story with cool characters that were relatable to 12-year-old me.
Yeah.
For me, it was definitely the character writing that really stood out. Like, the world is awesome, bending is awesome, but just the way that the characters develop over the series.
Especially compared to like other cartoons on the TV at the time.
Exactly.
And the way I really appreciate the character development of Family Guy. Okay.
But Avatar, the one thing I really another thing I really appreciate is the fact it didn't really talk down to you as an audience. Like, things were dark and they didn't try to hide it, but also that wasn't just like the main point of the show.
The show did a great job of having dark themes and a light tone.
Yeah, and I think
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, whenever we were watching it as a kid, I think the best part about it for me was just like how cool it was. Like, it was just like Pokemon, where I would imagine myself as a bender, and I would play during recess and stuff, and imagine I was Earthbender.
Okay, I imagine you saw yourself as an Earthbender.
Hey, whoa!
What elements did you other two want to bend?
For reference for our audience, Nick over here is the rock guy. Just the rock guy.
He's a geographer.
Geographer with the geology minor, excuse me, sir.
I think my element is obvious. I would be a firebender.
Yeah, yes, you're very fiery. You're hyper passionate about everything.
As far as what I'd like, I'd probably say fire, but more realistically, as far as what I'd like, Earth. More realistically, I'd probably be fire or air. Personality-wise,
I would think you would be water.
Really?
I would see Robbie as fire. I would see fire for Robbie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know anyone who's an airbender in our friend group, really.
Yeah, we don't have anyone too passive.
Chase.
Michael. No, Michael.
Michael. Yeah, absolutely.
But back on to topic. And I think nowadays.
Arjo, you didn't mention which bender you would be.
I didn't think I needed fire.
Fire.
It's true.
I think nowadays.
Oh, you've seen me bend fire. I see.
Yeah.
There is a picture somewhere out on the internet of me holding a fireball in my hands, but that's completely unrelated to firebending.
Yeah.
But nowadays, like rewatching Avatar again, I think the point that stands out the most to me is the serious dark tones that it does have, and kind of like the politics of the time as well, inside of the world. And
it still holds up like relatively well, like compared to other shows we watch nowadays. It's still
I'd say
as good or better than.
I'd say Avatar is one of those rare experiences I've had where I like it even more on repeat watchings. Like, I catch the little details that I wouldn't have the first time through, and it only serves to make the series feel better, bigger, and more well thought out.
Watching it back again and noticing like the social themes in it, like Sokka's adventure into not being toxic masculinity, like that got me wondering like how much of that shapes my views when I was little.
Yeah. That's a good point, because there's a lot of themes like that it touches on, that especially if it's something that people are watching growing up, it could help lead them into that following that path or
Yeah.
something like that. So,
Yeah.
the path of not being sexist and that kind of thing.
Just as long as no one learned any
And there was
Azula
also
lessons,
a
then
lot
we're
of
good.
environmentalism.
Yeah. True.
And class divide stuff, especially in Ba Sing Se. So that was all really
And also
And
just
just-
cultural divide. I'd like the whole thing, like the guru, like the 4 nations. There's just one people, sort of thing.
Mhm. So that we'll kind of talk about like the impact that the impact it had on us growing up. I don't know about y'all. I never really watched it start to finish while I was growing up. I always just kind of watched it as it was
when
on.
it was on Nickelodeon.
That kind of thing. But it was a lot. It was one of those shows that I always looked forward to, and it provided a lot of.
Yeah.
I remember flipping through the freaking like the Time Warner cable, like the
the guide,
the cable
the TV
guide
guide.
feed. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
when is Airbender coming on? Let me
Yeah.
search the-
I think that's actually a really
Good
good point to start talking about is when we were watching as a kid and the way that it was first developed was as a intermittent, the audience is just coming in and picking up on random shows, bits, and random
This
episodes.
was like what 2006, I think, was when,
Right.
or was
I
it
wanna
even
say.
2005 when the first season came? I can't even
Might have
remember.
I think it
But
was
this
05,
Netflix
08.
adaptation is supposed to be sequential. So I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a really different change whenever
And
we're
it's
going
like
back and watching
it's
Avatar.
definitely something like they probably expect people to binge it so they can
Right,
tell
exactly.
one
Yeah, the
continuous
Netflix
story.
model of just putting it all online at once.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a big change. The biggest change between the original and this adaptation is going to be that style, and it'll be really interesting to see. Like some of the episodes that are just out there, coming out of left field, are some of my favorites, and obviously some really bad ones as well.
Well, one really bad one. One
right.
really bad one.
But I'm still
But we'll
looking
get to
forward
that.
to like seeing the group do random things, but still, being a mostly
Mhm.
sequential style.
How much do you think that's going to be in the Netflix series? Like, do you expect them to include much of the stuff that we
The
like
episodic
about it?
island
Just
hopping?
I
just
think
like
some
the
of it, but-
antics, the group going from place to place and not really progressing the major plot
So that's
by
something.
doing that.
I hope not. If only
Really?
because we have seen that.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine Netflix doing it better than it was already done.
That-
Like especially because the animation, like the nature of the 2D animation let them make stuff more kiddie and fun. Imagine the just writing the Unagi in live action compared to how it was in the anime. Like it was a cute funny sequence in the animation where he's like running on the water and they had the little like Wile E.
Super
Coyote
goofy,
wind up
yeah.
run and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that kind of stuff in live action. Like you can, but it would be weird as hell. So I kind of hope they stray away from that and keep it concise.
I would say I agree, and also still want to see those random bits of character development. I think one of the first ones we see is like them just going to, even though it did build the story and it built the plot, when they visit like the first air temple and you really get to
Yeah.
see.
I mean, I'd say
And-
that's pretty influential on the
That's
plot.
gonna be staying.
that's not a
Yeah,
random
absolutely.
side
that's not a.
But those random side quests still helped me connect with the character outside of just building up their character. That
I think
kiddiness
there's
and that
some
friendliness
like
did help.
the air temple visit obviously would have to be in. I imagine
Right.
the Kyoshi Island visit would also probably stay because like regardless of whether or not we like the island hopping shows up in the series, we as viewers assume that that's happening because they're going from one side of the world to the other, right? So they might show a little bit of it. Stuff like the waterbending scroll episode might get cut out because it's overall unnecessary to the story, and it was just kind of like a.
It is Aang's first experience with waterbending, though. The way I see it is, as far as the filler episodes
like
go,
that's not that filler.
they could add
episode,
a
not
chapter.
necessary.
Yeah. But the way I see it is the filler episodes that they're going to keep are the ones that have thematic resonance that carry on. Things like the Jet episode or like the Blue Spirit. Things that like expand, or even the Northern Air
Jet.
Temple.
You could completely write Jet out of the story and it would be perfectly
I
fine.
know you hate Jet. I know you hate Jet. I just mean the
What
idea
does he
that
add?
Nothing.
the
Literally
idea
nothing.
that
He added the one scene where they were like, "Why are you betraying us, Jet. We were
Well,
your friends.
in this
All
situation,
brainwashed. Okay.
He is the only. He
Moving
was the
on.
very first non-Fire Nation antagonist that doesn't
Yeah.
immediately turn into a friend later, like with King Boomy. Like King Boomy is technically antagonist until you realize, oh, it's Aang's old friend Boomy. No, Jet is basically proof that there's more than just the Fire Nation that they're going to have to deal with going on. And I think that's him. And that
Well,
in some cases
except
they
they
can
don't.
do worse.
Like he showed up for like 2 seconds, one
But
episode.
I mean that
and then-
conflict was it had very real implications and ramifications if they didn't stop him.
Like, and we're talking about how dark Avatar was. Jet was like, I've said this before, but it's like kids' first introduction to war crimes.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting thing, especially if they're going with a darker, more. Now, there are, and like I said, episodes that carry the thematic resonance. Like the Swamp episode, which shows like how the connection to the world and understanding nature. Those things I think they could keep. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Swamp episode, but I think it's one of those ones that they could potentially keep. Now, episodes that they could cut out, things that have no relevance to the plot whatsoever and don't really serve to further the characters. Things like The Great Divide, which, again, I think we're going to talk about a bit more because I have a lot of words to say about The Great Divide, and Avatar Day, and things like that. Just things
I would say
that
even
cut
like,
out without
the Swamp
aging.
thing didn't contribute to the story. It expounded on like the connection of the spirit world stuff, but like like what did it do for the story other than give you those two characters that would show up on Invasion Day? Like it didn't really inform much of the story. And like the Hey Bye. Do you guys remember the Panda Bear Spirit episode? Like that one was also like it was
That-
it was
like,
good
that
for
one I think
showing
even-
the spirit world and showing that Aang is supposed to be the bridge.
It was the very first intro. Like before Hey Bye showed up, we got nothing about the spirit world. But yeah, like episodes like that, I could see cutting out. But
Or not even
it's-
cutting the episode. Like you could keep the important takes from that episode and work them into the serial plot line, stuff like that.
Or like the book 3 one where Aang goes to school. I think that one you could probably cut out.
No, okay, but that's
I mean,
good,
it was.
though.
I mean, I like it
It's a
thematically.
good episode.
It's a good episode, but it's not like super relevant to the plot. If we're assuming that the Netflix show is cutting down on material,
But that begs the question: the characters are going to be aged up for the most part.
That's
so
from
that
what we've
would-
heard, right.
How would that change things? Like, obviously, if they're
That's a good-
much like older, that kind of thing, then
Aang goes to Fire Nation High School.
Okay, Fire Nation High School.
So
But a school
I talked about
episode
this before,
seems
but like
odd.
I don't think it would actually meaningfully change the story at all because the
I think
kids,
it's
really-
going to change the theme of it. Yeah.
well, it'll change the tone, but like the
Right, the
kids in
tone,
the show
sorry, yes.
did not act like for every part of like the plot that happened, they were acting and thinking like adults. They
I'd
were
say that early Aang was very much a kid.
okay, but that wasn't plot. He just wanted to go ride Pang. Like that didn't contribute to
No,
the
no,
plot.
that-
Anytime
that-
there was a
that-
plot decision to make, they were thinking
There was
mature
conflict
adults.
though from him being a kid and not wanting to like realize he had responsibility.
Sure,
that was a
but
big-
you don't
that
need
was
to
a
be
big
a
part of
kid
his
to
character.
do that.
No, I know.
You don't have to be, so,
I know.
like, I
I know.
don't
I'm
think it
just
would
saying.
change.
I'm just saying that was a big part of his character and his conflict of realizing I had this responsibility, but I want to go ride penguin sleds. Like I
And
don't
play
want
with
to
my
do it. I
friends
wa-
and that sort of
yeah.
thing.
That was a big part of his character. Like, and that
the whole
not
avoidance
being
of
there.
being the Avatar kind
Yeah.
of denial.
Yeah, and going back to
Sure,
the school
but
episode, which I
you-
think is
you
really
can
that being
still do
said,
that without him
you can
being
still
a kid.
do that. Absolutely, you can still do that. It's just that is something that we as people who've watched it before know
The-
Aang to be.
The
So
biggest,
that is just going to be a change. in
the
the
biggest
adaptation,
thing
get
that
used
would
to.
change for like character wise would probably be Toph. Do you guys remember the episode that was like the
Yeah.
whole Toph
I-
not having parents anymore and wanting to get Katara to
I
leave
wouldn't
her
be
alone?
surprised if they kept her the same age. Honestly, like having this young prodigy, where
I mean, if they age up everyone, she would still be relatively younger than the rest of the group, I assume.
I would be kind of interested to see her be like relatively the same age as when she was in the sorry.
I'd say like maybe they would make her the same. Like I think like how old was Toph in the original season? I felt like she was like 1 to 2 years young, like at least 2 years younger than most of the rest of the gang.
I
Like,
still-
and I know Sokka was older than the other two.
I would
like,
think
I'd say
that they
yeah.
would still age her up, if only because like kids don't have the emotional maturity,
Toph
like
did
like
though.
experience to
Right,
to
Toph
do
was
the things that they
calloused though.
Mm.
She was a tough character even though she was
Mhm.
young.
And then we see later on that
Sure.
she does have her
did.
emotional
But like think
breakdowns, like
about
with her whole
what the
parents'
characters
issues.
are doing. They're like a 5-man war against not pyromancer Nazis. I don't like.
Mhm.
That wouldn't be the place for a kid, and I don't like if you were 12
I mean-
years old and thrown in that situation, you would have no idea what to do. You wouldn't.
Toph didn't care really. She was just kind of a battering ram that you pointed at a problem and she earthbended at it.
And if we're talking about aging up characters, I think you could very easily like make Zuko like all the way up to early 20s without really being an issue.
Yeah,
I think you could do that for all of them.
Aside from the romance stuff, but I guess everyone else is
the romance part of that thing that they posted is the most worrying for me. But
yeah.
What
I mean, Zuko and May.
That they posted,
like I said,
just that there's going to be more romance.
Yeah,
or
they posted they wanted it to be where is the thing? It was like darker and they wanted sex in it. Hold on.
What?
Let me
okay, let's get the exact quote on this because I'm worried now. I mean,
You're making promises you can't upkeep, Arjo.
I don't know
like,
which
what
one
does
of
My
these-
Friendly Kids show need?
Well, okay. It will not be a friendly kids
I know,
show.
I
Or at
know.
least it doesn't have to be.
What does the aged up audience of Avatar: The Last Airbender really craving right now? I mean, did they just go to all those Zutara fan fiction sites?
Yeah.
Like, yes, this is what we were waiting for. I mean, all those people are super excited. I can only imagine.
From what I recall from that quote, I do remember it saying like blood and violence were not going to be toned down.
They weren't going to shy away from it. That didn't sound like they were focusing on that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Can't wait to see how terrifying Azula ends up being.
Yeah,
and
that sounds like fun.
We can find that quote, but I don't know if it mentioned. I know it mentioned romance. I don't know if it mentioned sex.
It did mention sex.
It did. Okay.
Yes.
We've got it. We've got our guy on it, so he'll get back to us. So, do you think? Obviously, they're aged up, and that discussion, like that, will that change any of the major character arcs? I know we kind of established it wouldn't do too much, but like the way
I'd say the big things would be Aang and Toph. Like Katara would have to stick around the same age as Aang, otherwise things would get weird, and Sokka has to be a few years older than her. And Zuko, like I said, I think he's gonna age up, and as long as he's within a reasonable age to still absolutely need that approval from his father, which I think is a really important part of his character arc. So like early 20s at the latest for Zuko.
Makes sense.
Like maybe 22 max. And even then, I'd be worried if they pushed more than 20.
Yeah. For Aang, I definitely think there's a limit as well, just because his whole initial motivation for leaving and getting trapped in an iceberg was like wanting to escape from home, which is a very young.
Running away from home.
I got the quote, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a quote from Fandom Wire. It says, Netflix currently wants to age up Aang, Zuko, Katara, and Sokka. They also want to... So not Toph.
Okay.
They also want to separate the live-action series from the animated one by creating a darker, mature tone with more romance, sex, and blood.
I mean...
Interesting.
Okay, so... The question becomes, like, where's that leading to?
I'm hoping we're talking, like, romance,
Fade to black.
Fade to black, go away, not like HBO type stuff.
No, it is.
I mean, I don't think Netflix is really going to aim for HBO. Like, it's still Netflix.
Yeah.
Well,
I doubt, that doesn't seem like the end of the world to me. If you were a bunch of 16 to 20-year-olds traveling around the world together, I assume at some point you would be having sex anyway. Like,
I know, but it's
not Aang.
Yeah, not Aang.
Airbenders. Airbenders don't have sex, Arjo.
I mean,
No.
This would probably be...
We said we wouldn't bring Korra into this.
Okay,
no, not
I mean, I was just talking about the fact that
curious how
still Airbender,
Airbender. So something that's weird to me is Aang doesn't talk about his parents. Like, I'm wondering how Airbender children are raised, because it seemed like they were all just like communal, like all the kids are together and getting taught. So I'm curious about that.
Airbenders are secretly kobolds. That's what we're going with here.
Yeah,
just take all the children, put them together. Everyone's children. Like, they're not my child, our child.
Yeah, especially the Avatar that gets started like separated and trained from a young age too.
Well, the thing is, the Avatar they're not supposed to reveal who the Avatar is to the Avatar until he like turns 16 or something like that. Aang was a special occasion. I know Aang was a unique occasion. They even said.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought.
Again, let's avoid.
Didn't they like just find out about Roku and then they told him or?
No, Roku. It was literally Roku's 16th birthday. The Fire Sages show up and like surprise, you're the Avatar. Like it was
so
actually
they known ahead of time. I got the impression that they were like
no.
just
They
realizing.
like the monks, the fire sage, all that. They figure these out ahead of time, but they're technically not supposed to tell you until you turn 16. With the airbenders, they're
how do you
like,
go 16 years without realizing you can bend other elements?
I don't
does that
think
happen?
it's something.
I mean, Arjo, try really hard. Do we know for a fact you can't firebend? I mean, you gotta
Until
really
someone
try
tells
here.
you can't.
you
It's
really
like-
have to try here.
I guess like
But, like, I
growing up,
imagine-
like kids would play at being the Avatar and like that kind of thing in that kind of world, but unless
imagine-
you're actually trying to like do that, you're not going to try, and you won't have access to ways to do like firebending, earthbending, waterbending when you're in the air temple. You just have a bunch of teachers, a bunch of peers, a bunch of literature all on airbending.
And not just that, but
It's
the
just-
Avatar
I
is
imagine
inherently an airbender of whatever nation that they were in from the start. So they would like, why would they think to try to expand upon that? I mean, I know that they know that the Avatar is a thing as a concept, but I mean,
It's one of those.
Okay,
it can't
but
be neat.
I imagine
Right.
if you are able to bend an element, I imagine an airbender would be more sensitive and be able to feel air in a different way than somebody who can't airbend. Just like waterbenders
once
would
they've
probably be
trained
innately
themselves
aware
to-
of water. Like even without
Well, what if they don't? No one else is in
Wait.
their head. There's nothing telling them that that's abnormal when they're growing up and they feel those things.
That's
Like,
also, are we sure about the whole being able to like sense elements thing? Because
Yeah.
I was always under the impression that you had.
how would you
either see
waterbend
or
if you can't sense the water there? You have
You
to
see
be
the
able
water?
to feel the water. So you're saying you can't waterbend while blindfolded?
Have you ever seen?
I mean,
have
we
you
know
ever
that
seen
Boomy
a
said that
blind-
he couldn't earthbend as long as that he could earthbend so long as his face wasn't covered.
Right, but that like I would imagine if he was standing on the earth, he'd be able to do it anyway. It was just
I mean, you have to figure out
seeing
through
it
some-
was enough
one
of
of
a
your five-
connection to the earth.
I mean, I'm assuming it's a five senses thing, not like some innate power with bending, because bending is more like a martial arts, and then the element sort of works with it. I don't think like Toph is one of the. I'd say Toph is the exception to the rule on that part, where she actually uses bending to enhance her senses, but we haven't really seen anyone else. Like we haven't seen Aang like detect air currents or a waterbender like
Yes, we
feel
did.
something.
He
Oh,
dodged combustion band shot because he felt the air currents when he was charging up the shot.
But that's also I can also feel air currents, but I'm not an airbender.
Okay.
I don't know. I
He
think
might have
we
just
don't.
felt the shock.
I-
Like Aang has decent reflexes.
I just think
know
we
that.
don't know, and there's no way to have
Mhm.
known without asking.
yeah,
a
if
rep,
it's not
so.
confirmed,
Wait, actually, wait.
some
I
point.
know that there is a confirmation on this. I just realized you get, and this is not necessarily a deep draw, but you guys remember after Avatar: The Last Airbender, the first two books were released. Before book 3 came out, there was this weird thing where they released like almost a director's cut version, which is the exact same version on TV, but they had like little blurbs on the screen telling about all sorts of different things. They mentioned that Toph can sense Earth even while it's not touching the ground, meaning that at the very sense, at some point, Toph, I guess, has some capacity to detect Earth. And since
Okay.
she can't see, so I guess you're right, Arjo. There seems to be
could have
something.
been it could have been enhanced by her being blind as well.
She's totally daredeviling it.
Yeah.
which leads to what I said, that there's nothing indicating that that's different when you're growing up. Like you're growing up with something different in your mind, like I don't know. Unless you're explicitly told to look for the signs, there's nothing that would indicate there's a difference.
I really want to see the Firebender assassin group going around like thermal sensing people now.
Oh, wait, that would be
absolutely-
kind of
I
that would
know,
be super cool.
like the Yu
Like,
Yan archers are all
hand
secretly
on- hand on
Firebenders
the
with,
wall.
with like infrared sensing eyes.
That's why they can like shoot through walls. Okay, that's actually
Yeah,
super
okay.
cool.
You know,
Netflix,
legit,
please
like
take my money. Like,
waterbenders
Netflix,
could
take my
probably
money.
basically do that. If you're capable of bloodbending, you could probably just
Sensing
sense
the water
people.
from someone.
Yeah, that'd be a
Yeah,
challenge.
Netflix. You, if you're listening to this, Netflix,
Yeah.
feel free to pay us. We will come on and help you with this.
Well,
We
'cause I
are
mean,
random poor people on the internet.
However, they show like Toph's like Earth seeing, like they could try and do that with the other elements. I could see that being really interesting.
Or they could go like with the Ember Island players, where Toph just screams very loudly and like echolocation.
Echolocation.
Oh,
I mean,
shit,
apparently there are real life people who are blind and have learned echolocation,
I've
and they can like
seen
go
that.
on. and they can like go on bike rides and stuff like that, which I think is awesome.
It's crazy.
And like they can do both active and passive echolocation, which if you
Yeah.
know from like it's where you can either just take these sounds of your surroundings that's passive and then use that, or active where you release like a sonar click.
Mhm.
And submarines do the same thing with sonar, but yeah, echolocation.
Yeah.
Tough.
Cool.
Earthbending. Avatar.
Yeah, there you go.
It's all connected. We swear.
So-
we swear.
Do we think that the way the story is structured currently, the way that it is in the animated cartoon, we discussed like removing some of the filler, but just the fact that it's set in 3 distinct acts, that it's basically the goal is known right at the start, and
Or
it's
close
just
to it,
everything
at
is
least.
leading all the way up to that one goal. Do we think that's the best method to go with in the Netflix show?
I
Are they
think
going to
so.
try something different? What's
So you guys know I like more nuanced stuff, but I don't
Mhm.
think that like you can change that and still keep it being Avatar. I think that is one of the like opening with you got to go beat the Fire Lord within this
Yeah.
deadline is kind of like that is quintessential Last Airbender.
And the deadline is the deadline is an important part of the storytelling structure. It prevents Aang from just like saying, "Oh, you know, things are pretty screwed right now. I'm just gonna go train the
On
4
that note,
elements
though,
off in
the
the corner."
deadline does not have to be.
Southern's Comet.
Well,
That-
no,
the-
it would be so, but like it could be coming like 2 years
Yeah,
from
that's
now. or
like-
whatever.
Or
they could change the timeline.
the time frame, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Which
That's-
I would like.
yeah.
We talked about this. I feel like they learned way too quickly.
Sokka learning how to use a sword in one day and become a sword master.
Becoming a master.
Sokka's
Okay.
very good day.
Boomerang techniques translate very well to sword. Okay.
I mean-
I wouldn't mind expanding the timeline that the show encompasses a bit, but
I mean, as the Avatar comics guy, there is actually a comic book, or it takes place in the middle of book 3, where after Zuko's joined up with the gang, where they're all just hanging out at the Western Air Temple. Sokka challenges Zuko to a sword bending competition, which Zuko vehemently refuses to call it.
Sounds
and-
about right.
And like Zuko just kicks Sokka's butt every single time until Sokka cheats and starts using the boomerang. At which point, Zuko screams vehemently, "Hey, no boomerangs in sword bending!" Which I think Sokka won the philosophical victory there, just getting Zuko to admit it was sword bending. And that's also where we learned that Zuko trained from a young age with Master Piandao, the guy who trained Sokka up in like 24 hours.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the story would be fairly much the same, being quintessential to it. Do we think they would add any characters?
New
I
characters?
don't know.
Yeah, new characters that
That
we've
would
never
be-
heard of before.
They
That would be-
might-
there's no way for us to predict that. Kind
I
of thing,
could
right?
see them
But would
doing.
you be
like,
mad if they did?
No. I mean,
Nah.
as long as the character.
I
has a
could see
purpose.
them doing like what I've seen some like book to movie adaptations. Like one character is a conglomeration of a couple
Yeah.
characters. Like there could be a character that does what Jet does, what
Yeah.
random guy in Fire Village, what
Or like that one general from the Earth Kingdom who tried getting Aang into the Avatar state.
Yeah, there
Like
could
you
be
could- like
one
you could sort of
character that
combine him
does
with
all that.
Jet.
Not a
Yeah.
bunch of individual characters, just to provide some consistency to the viewer. I could see them doing that.
And on a similar note, what characters do you think that they could wholeheartedly just remove from the series? Side characters, main characters, it doesn't matter. Who do you think we could get rid of? First of all, this is gonna sound heartless.
UA.
Momo. I was gonna say Momo.
UA.
That's
You
sad,
can
but
straight
I-
up delete UA.
Like
Yeah, Momo's not useful to
to the
plot.
plot. I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Momo. He's a great comedic
Well,
foil. He's,
do we
Exactly.
think? Do we think live action Momo would hit the same as little cute
No.
cartoon Momo?
He needs to
I
be
think
as
it would-
terrifying as
Momo was
from-
already scary. I think I mentioned this before. Like Momo when he talks in like the Aang
The nightmare,
lucid,
yeah.
terrifying.
lucid dreaming.
Oh, yeah,
that
when
was
Aang is
terrifying.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to
totally
see
different.
a real life Momo at all. So I
So I wouldn't
would
mind
I would
Momo
agree.
being-
I mean, we saw what real life Appa looked like in That Which Shall Not Be Named.
Yeah,
Actually,
Yeah.
that one had Momo too, briefly.
did a Momo. Yeah, it did.
Which was also. Anyway,
Anyway, I think you could get rid of like a lot of the characters in the Fire Nation invasion that they brought in, like the swamp guys, like aren't really necessary.
One way I could another character I think that they could completely remove and do another way.
Bato.
You guys remember? I was gonna. Oh yeah, Bato. I was gonna say Zhang Zhang. You know the first guy who taught Aang firebending.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
that's who I thought of.
Yeah,
When
like
when
I think
Andrew
one thing that
mentioned
you could do,
combining.
like one thing that they could do is have the same general premise. Like Aang and Sokka and Katara end up going to a Fire Nation festival. They see this one guy doing all sorts of cool things with firebending, and then later Aang is like, "I'm gonna become a firebender anyways. I might as well try it." And just like with waterbending, Aang is immediately like a prodigy with. He's very good with it. Like he gets the fire going. And then he tries duplicating the trick, and then same result ends up burning Katara. I think you could totally cut Zhang Zhang out of that and just have that, and then you still get Aang's like inherent fear of ever learning firebending and hate of it.
Yeah.
You know,
And
honestly,
part of his
it's
character going into book 3 and needing to learn firebending is just his fear of it. So
yeah, and it
Especially
sucks to say, but Pian Dao could also probably be cut. I liked him, and like he was a very good addition, but like I don't see him actually being and like him.
Well, the problem is
He was
that's
not
also tied
necessary.
very
If
much to
Sokka's training was not necessary. So I could see him.
I think it was important.
Hand wave that, just say Sokka's already relatively trained, especially if he's aged up.
I'd say if Sokka was relatively trained, that detracts from Sokka. Like Sokka is the guy who, early on in the series, thinks he's a great warrior and stuff like that. But it's the fact that he keeps getting beaten up and then learns from that along the way. That is part of Sokka's... Like, immediately with the Kyoshi Warriors, he just gets his ass kicked immediately, and then has the humbling thing, like, I want to learn from these guys. Like, if Sokka was already a competent warrior, I think that would detract from him. And his
but then at the same time,
character.
like, he became a competent warrior over the course of a day. So, like, how much do we really...
I mean, yes, I think that, like, I think we should definitely, like, if we're doing it, definitely stretch it out. Like, I could see them montaging over it, like, while the other characters are doing something else, but definitely, I think that, at least... equivalent to Pian Dao. Like something where Sokka has to train and become a better person to try to match. Because Sokka, I think, like, one of the really interesting things was, like, the inferiority complex Sokka had in that whole thing. Like, all of these characters around me are amazing people, and I'm just the token guy of the group who is the normal guy, the lemur sitter, the guy who puts out a single fire when these guys are, like, throwing around boulders. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic to put Sokka in, and one that's essential to his character to really get the whole picture. Also, Space Sword is just really cool.
We wouldn't get Space Sword, I feel like.
I mean,
see a cool like forging sequence.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I really love that sequence. The thing that I would miss most, I think, that just came to me from not having all of these one-shot episodes, are all of the one-liners that we also get. Like, all of Toph's, by the way, you guys keep forgetting I'm blind one-liners, and like...
Oh yes, Toph's blind jokes are just the... Like, Toph is how you take a character with a disability and just... and play off of it comedically without making it seem demeaning.
Yeah.
Because it's Toph who's the one who's making the jokes. Yeah. Like, if someone made blind jokes at her expense, that would be a lot different. But no, Toph owns up to it and uses it to... Like, Toph
to make fun of other people. Yeah, absolutely.
There were some other people making jokes. You remember when they were doing the whole prank or like scamming
the runaway.
And then Sokka and Aang were trying to get Katara and Toph to be friends again, and like writing notes, and they were like, "Wait, this might be an issue."
You know, he sends it to Katara, like, Toph can't write. And then Aang comes up with the sheet, like, next time we should send a letter to Toph. And I was like, I think we're going to run into a similar... Or, like, earlier in that episode, Sokka finds, like, the poster, runs up to Toph, like, Toph, what's this?
Like, I assume like it's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But I assume that it's what's on it that you're talking about.
It'll be interesting to see how they can get, like, will there be any of that comedic twist to the interactions and that kind of thing? But
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. I think it would add. Brings me to something we mentioned earlier, like how all the characters are very powerful. How the whole like Avatar state and the way that it's kind of just a get out of jail for random situations card. It's a trope that's very common in like
the hidden
power.
The Gohan bursts out of the Saiyan pod.
Exactly. But are they gonna downplay that in the show? Are they gonna keep it about where it was? How do you think that's?
I think they will only based on Legend of Korra. They downplayed the Avatar state a lot in Legend of Korra, and I think that that was something that the original writers chose to do, and I feel like that was a look back on this, and they were like,
in the most for the story. Maybe less in like There's a few moments that I think is really essential. Like, for example, Aang finding Monk Gyatso's corpse. I think that's kind of an important situation to have the Avatar in, but I'm also torn and I don't want to
He's
just
not saying
be
get
emotional.
rid of it. He's saying like make
I
it
know.
less like snap.
I know.
I win the
but
fight.
I know. But the problem is that the Monk Gyatso thing. It's entirely based. It's not a gel free card. It's like Aang going over the top emotionally, and I feel as though if we include that, that also opens the door to a lot of issues. Like, why isn't he emotional enough in this dangerous situation to get
that's a good
Avatar
point.
state?
I think.
Yeah,
I
so
think
I
you
want the
really
Monk Gyatso
combine
scene. I
those
just
two.
wanted to do. Yeah, I just want to
I think
do
you
it
combine the
in a
two
way.
really well. That like he has this snap, and when he enters, he just goes like berserk. Like he just destroys everything, and that makes him fearful of the Avatar state and disconnects it. I think that could be done easily as well.
I think a really interesting thing that they could do if they want to like combine a bunch of things together. If they combine the
Wait, that was already happened, Nick. That arc.
Did it?
It was when the Earthbender general was trying to.
Yeah. But he had already used it. He had already used
Mhm.
it several times before.
Okay,
As a joke.
now here's just an idea I'm throwing out here. What if they combine together the Southern Air Temple episode with that one where Aang has to go talk to the Spirit of Roku? So it ends up with like Admiral Zhao having captured Aang and the group in there, and he's doing his villain monologue about how a Fire Nation like murdered all the Airbenders, and Aang also in that scene, either by being brought to it or Zhao bringing it out, sees the corpse of Monk Gyatso. Like, we're gonna execute your friends. You can see all of your past family is dead, and you're gonna be captured. That way they could combine some things together and also still get the Aang is in danger and in emotional stress Avatar state breakout.
Mhm.
Well, okay, but that would be what Andrew's saying is
To get out of jail free.
Exactly.
I think that something has to happen during that click to make him scared or somehow make him not want to do it
If they can like use like cinematic effects and like the music and everything to make it very clear there's a buildup of emotion happening, that kind of thing, I could see that working, and then they don't build it up as much when other situations, so they could use that excuse. Oh, he's
not as emotional here. So
exactly. He didn't have as much time to churn over it and get more emotional and get more.
That's why I think that's why like in my scenario, the Admiral Zhao monologuing just to really hit it home. Yeah. Like, we're gonna kill your friends, we're gonna capture you, because of course we can't kill you. We want you alive, but just barely. And like see what happens to the people who stand up to the Fire Nation, just like gesturing to the skeletons of hundreds of airbenders around him. And like Aang can see one of them has like Monk Gyatso's little thing on it. And that would be super dark, but apparently that's what they're going for. Well, not super dark, but if they're going for dark, that's the way.
That'd be a good way to do it, yeah. I think it all works in favor of a series being the way that they're going to be telling it. You know, Thou That Shalt Not Be Named definitely didn't have enough time for any of this episode, but I feel like a series is the perfect amount of time to be able to take care of all these things.
That begs the question, are they going to do the whole storyline in one 10-12 episode series? 1 hour long?
No,
are they going to do it in books?
Or
I think books, like, they'll go the same general structure of the story, like book 1, book 2, book 3, even maybe hitting the same climaxes, like Battle for the North Pole, all on Bossing Say, and then Fight Against Violet. Like, they might change the nature of those.
I don't think they would have enough material for 3 seasons at like 12 episodes long, if they're not using the chaff.
It doesn't have to be 12.
Sure, no, absolutely not.
Was 8.
But that's just the normal. That's just the
we need to come to terms with the fact that there is the possibility that not just cutting away stuff, but that the Netflix show might add stuff too. Because if they want to differentiate themselves, I could totally see Netflix like adding entire episodes or side adventures and stuff like that.
They would probably add stuff along with the things that they want to accentuate that are different between the show and itself. So things that
which I don't see as inherently a bad thing.
Yeah.
There's a way they're doing things to differentiate themselves because it's different.
Like I've mentioned to you guys before, one of my favorite Avatar comics is the Lost episodes, which is basically that. It's just a series of episodes that didn't make it into the cut of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
You said they're very hit or miss, right?
Yeah,
like
they're very hit or miss.
Really good. Some
of them are like a 5-minute comedic thing. Like Aang got a cold after the whole thing with the Blue Spirit and the thing like that, and he keeps revealing themselves to the Fire Nation because he keeps sneezing as an airbender and alerting everyone. Like, some of them are, or the time that the group kind of gets kidnapped by an orphanage.
Yeah,
but like I said,
Wait. Oh, because they're all a bunch of kids wandering around.
No. The orphan people are just very sad, and also I think Yeah, and most of them are bandits. Don't worry about it. There's way too much to explain right now. But
Yeah, I mean, some of those,
you people who've read the comics, you know
I
what
agree.
I'm talking about.
I do not mind if the Netflix version differentiates itself from the original. We already have the original. It was fantastic. Like
we've had the worst thing that could possibly happen with the original happen already, as far as adaptations, and it doesn't detract from what the original was.
And
nothing Netflix can do can ruin that.
The basis of Avatar.
Don't say it like that in an absolute.
No, I'm
Nothing
saying
Netflix can do.
We will just forget that it existed, just like you know what. Like nothing Netflix will do. We will just collectively shun. It's like Game of Thrones season. Like after season 8 of Game of Thrones happened, we just forget Game of Thrones exists until we're making specific references. We just don't talk about it. Like it just immediately vanished from the cultural zeitgeist.
Fair.
So, I forgot what I was gonna say now. All right,
that's
continue.
okay.
The basis of Avatar: The Last Airbender is a solid enough story that if Netflix went in and like changed stuff or added new things, like the story itself is strong enough that like the things that they would be adding would probably be good too.
Okay.
I could see that if they keep like the characters consistent and the world consistent, then it could be cool to add new experiences and that kind of thing.
And actually, that leads me to something. One of my favorite episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender is Zuko alone. Just the book 2 episode where it's a single episode of Zuko doing stuff. It's like this it's like this weirdly awesome Western samurai thing. That's just an exploration of Zuko's past, himself as a character. Sort of like, do you think that with the Netflix show we would see episodes like that for other characters, not just Zuko, but like a solo episode where you really get a deep dive into a character?
I don't think they would give it an entire episode. I imagine these would be 1 hour long episodes, because that's
I could
like
see it
the
being
norm. I don't think they get a full episode, but
like going in and out of it with other stuff going on.
I don't know. I feel like that's interesting enough that at least Zuko's story could fill a whole episode,
like a new Zuko alone.
It would, because it's Netflix and it's all coming out at once, you'll get less of the complaints that, this is just a pure filler episode. You're just waiting a week to get the next episode.
That being said, Zuko is also the most complex character in that story.
Yeah.
I don't know that any of the other characters could fill an hour.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was.
I'm trying to think of
Sokka episode. I could honestly see a Sokka episode. I actually kind of now want. Like they could get into greater depth. Like, I think that there's stuff with Sokka that was left unexplored that we could do more. That's why I'm asking you to expand about. Like, with Zuko alone, we got I think The Storm is the first episode where we really get to see that Zuko is this multi-layered, complex character. Like, the story, the episode where we learn Aang and Zuko's backstories, like, back to back to back to back. Like, I think that we could, if we got the opportunity, we could do that with some of the other characters who might not have gotten. Like, one of my very minor quibbles with this series is that Toph didn't get the full but Toph got some exploration.
What?
Yeah, like the resolution of Toph's family stuff was never covered in the series. Like everyone else gets a happy ending, and then there's Toph. Like Toph is awesome. No one hates Toph. Toph is great.
She also never gets her
one-on-one
with. She never gets her one-on-one with Zuko either. Whenever they're
the happy field trip with Zuko.
Yeah, she did have her one-on-one with Iroh that kind of made up for it.
And all you comic books people, don't at me. I know for a fact that Toph gets her resolution with her family in the comic books later on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
It would be nice to see
we can't expect. Yeah, we can't expect the audience to go out and look at other material.
But
okay. All right, Andrew. Sure. You deserve to get frozen like you are right now. I hope you know that.
That's like the first time
there.
That's really
that was a great time for Discord to freeze when you all were going back.
You deserved it. You deserved it.
So one quick I guess question to pose to you guys that I would have. So we're talking about taking out some of the episodic structure, right, and making it a bit more serial. When we were discussing this in our first draft, we talked about book 2. I think we all agree that book 2 was probably our favorite, and it was the most serial, which I think it has a lot to do with it spent the most time in one place. Like, they were in Ba Sing Se for a long time, and there is a continuous Ba Sing Se story where they are affecting the world of Ba Sing Se and everything around it.
I mean, it's weird. We say that they were in Ba Sing Se for a long while, but it was like 6 episodes that they were in Ba Sing Se.
Which is
I know,
half
it feels like
Wasn't it more?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I
We have
thought
like
it
the. Well, if we don't include the drill,
But-
like, do we want to include the drill and the secret party?
I mean, I
Because
would,
other than that,
yeah.
it was like, yeah, okay. So we have that. So that's one. Then we have like the City of Walls and Secrets, where we have all of where we learn about that stuff. We have Tales of Ba Sing Se, my favorite episode, fantastic episode. That goes straight into Lake Laogai, which is the one with Jet.
Lost Days? Was it
Appa's Lost Days is in there, but it doesn't really take
I
place.
mean,
in Ba
it is
Sing Se.
part of the
Another
continuous
major-
story, though. It is
Yeah.
part of.
Okay,
like, the
fine.
serial
Appa's Lost
structure
Days.
there.
Lake Laogai. Then we get the Earth King, and then we just get the season finale.
Which was 2
So-
episodes. That's 9
Yeah.
episodes.
So I'm seeing
7.
1,
Seven,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Appa's
Okay,
Last Days
okay.
was another solo
Which is a
episode,
little,
just so you know.
less than half of book 2.
Yeah.
Right. Which, like. So my thing was a lot of Airbender, like book 1 almost entirely, and then good chunk of 2 and a little bit of 3 are like point A to point B. Like we
And then
start
the journey
here
of-
and our journey or our goal is to
And-
get
and-
to there by the end of this book.
And the
right?
real treasure is the
Kinda
friends we made along
like
the way situation.
Volume 4 Ruby kind of stuff.
Right.
And
Mhm.
if they take out the episodic aspect of things, would you want to see them spend more time like in the North Pole and more time in Ba Sing Se? And more
I think the
time-
North Pole is something that, yeah, they should probably expand on, because we get a sort of montage there, like Qatar is now a master waterbender. I know you said you wanted to write out UA, but you have the whole Sokka UA romance going on in the background. Like, now they
You could just
have emotions.
How can you write out Yue though when she fixes the whole world? She fixes the moon.
Oh no!
So-
don't get
so
like, you're getting
I do
started.
want to mention, like,
She's very
it was,
integral,
it was
okay?
very frustrating to me to see, like, the Fire Nation attacking the North Pole and, like, speaking of, to your point, Robbie, of expanding on Sokka, they decided to take this kid who has been fighting against the Fire Nation and whose whole point of being there is to protect people from the Fire Nation, and the Fire Nation shows up and is sieging the city, and all he could think about is a girl. And it was so frustrating
Oh no,
that
he
they
immediately.
decided to do that.
I'd say that's disingenuous, because he immediately does
How?
volunteer for the mission to fight.
Yes,
them. It's
because of UA. It
It's
was
an
a whole.
No, it's an additional like reason to also do it. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
you would
like
have done it. no matter
Sokka would
what.
have done
Sure.
regardless.
Yes,
And then the
that's
only
my
reason he
point.
doesn't is just
yes,
because
he,
the
he
northern
would,
chief tells
Sokka
him.
would have wanted to do that anyway, but they decided to make it about a girl.
It was also about a girl. Also, not just
I don't
because.
I don't want to give credit to saying
but
that
then
they
there's
were
also
on,
he
that was the
also
only
spent
reason.
most of the
Yeah.
fight, like he didn't even actually go to the fight. He spent it protecting
Mm-hmm.
UA, which I don't even think he was there. What was he even there when UA got mooned?
Yeah.
I don't even
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
Okay.
When you got
but
mooned.
like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
it was.
Neutered.
But like
that-
he,
and that
he
wasn't by
wasn't
his
part
own
of the
choice.
fight because he was protecting UA.
That wasn't by his own choice. He was told to protect her.
Sure.
I
I
know,
know,
I agree,
that,
yeah.
but like, if you just
Yeah.
take out UA, you could put him in the fight and have him actually do the things that
I mean,
Sokka
also
4
part of it-
episodes ago would have wanted to do.
Part of it might have also been wanting to expand upon him because he had so little exposure at that time. and
Expand
give
upon him having a teenage crush with the
Give him
girl he
character, I
just
don't
met. Like, I don't.
Except that also brings in taking more time in the north. He
Yeah.
hadn't just met her at that point. Their
Right.
time had passed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
That
like
we don't
so
see.
circling back. I think we can keep Yoi, but we definitely need more time to expand upon just the relationship between them and just general things in the Northern Warden tribe.
Yeah. The Northern Water Tribe. There's a lot of the interesting, like, major areas. Ba Sing Se, the Northern Water Tribe, the
Fire Nation
where the
capital, I
Fire-
guess?
the Fire Nation capital. Like,
What is the
I think-
name of the Fire Nation capital?
I don't
It's just the
even know.
Caucasian capital
Yeah.
city. That's all they ever refer to it as.
But
Or the Royal Palace City, or sometimes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, because in the show, it's very, like, defined by the color palette, the theming of the area, like that kind of thing. It's very clear where you are. Obviously, you can do that in the North Pole, but then in places like the Fire Nation and Ba Sing Se, are they going to do all the architecture and
Right.
that go the whole 9 yards to
I would assume so.
clearly?
Um,
like,
Because a
at
lot
that
of
point,
that was like also cultural stuff. And
Yeah.
I would think
Yeah.
they would want to showcase like the differences
Yeah.
in culture.
Absolutely, yeah.
Although
I
it
think
must really
the
suck to be an interior decorator in the Avatar universe. Like, you're really
True.
limited on color.
Red and black. That's it.
That's
That's
it.
all
Yeah,
you
like-
gotta work
oh,
with.
wait, no, you
Figure
gotta
it
put
out.
some
gold
in there.
trimming. You got some gold trimming in there,
gold
too.
trimming. Not only is
Yeah.
trimming, you're not allowed to really go all out with the
No,
gold.
absolutely not. But I think it will have a harder time doing so just because a cartoon is so much easier to have a consistent color palette. Especially if they have to build these sets, bottom up. There's not
Right.
really
Right.
pre-existing
Yeah. That was,
X Chinese themed set that has green and brown as its main color
Yeah.
palette. Like
Mhm.
so.
Can we use some orange? No, that Dead Nation used orange. We can't use it anymore.
Yeah, some orange.
Yeah.
You can't use the orange and red.
No, red is
One
our
thing,
enemy. The
I do
orange
think-
people, this is someone else.
One other interesting, just to focus a little bit on like the book one finale and specifically Iroh. When I went back and watched it, I thought it was interesting how Iroh was actually helping Zhao. Like when they're sieging the city and stuff, Iroh's like, you should wait. The moon's coming out. They're gonna be better than, or the waterbenders are gonna get stronger because of the moon. And it showed how Iroh at that point wasn't yet anti-Fire Nation. He was still helping the Fire Nation, and he only turned once Zhao threatened the balance of like the universe. And I thought that was a good way of showing Iroh's progression.
Yeah,
And also,
he
I
was
think
like
you can
up to that point. He was very passive.
Yeah,
he
was
wasn't
like, I don't
necessarily.
agree with the Fire Nation. But
Yeah.
it's still my
I'm
duty to
still
help them.
part of
That was a
And
very
also you
clear
could-
tipping point.
You could argue, like if you read into it, that part of what he's doing is also just to buy Zuko more time to do Zuko stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had already sent Zuko in, knowing that was the full moon. So part of it could, like, it's also a good plan. Like, I don't know why he sent Zuko in the full moon. Bad for Zuko, but maybe
might
not
have been
Zuko can handle
buying
it.
time.
Yeah, but another reason he could be holding Zhao back, like, no, now Zuko could go capture the Avatar. Yeah,
I also
Even though he then
liked
berates
how
him for his plan.
all three of the finales had Iroh coming in to help the protagonists.
Yes.
Surprised to
So
say,
good.
I'm a good guy.
If they don't do Iroh well in the show, I'm gonna be very sad.
That's
I think
that's going to be a big
yeah.
point.
Uncle
of
Iroh's like
contention.
the Tyrion Lannister.
They're gonna
like,
write
with
him
Game
out.
of Thrones, you never ask someone who their favorite character is. It's always Tyrion.
Right.
No, you don't ask someone who's their favorite Avatar character. You ask them who's their favorite non-Uncle Iroh character.
And then everyone says Toph, and you say, okay, what about the next one?
Okay.
Accurate.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I think all in all, I am really looking forward to the adaptation. Even if there's a possibility that it could be bad, I don't think you should discount it off the hand.
So this
I've seen the worst of the worst. I'm willing to see what, and I've watched that one multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't know why I know I did my research for this.
What
I
was
went
it?
back and rewatched it again just for this, so I can put in the comparisons.
Y'all said last time, like, if you haven't seen it in a while, it's worse than you remember, and dear God, it is
Like
so much
I
worse
showed
than
these
it
guys,
is.
please, like you people who sat through that movie, like God forbid you were like me and you spent money to go watch it the first time, like
I
in
did.
theaters,
Yeah.
sitting there
I
expecting.
watched it the premiere night.
Oh God.
That never again.
And I think I did something similar with Spider-Man 3, but even then, I can look back on that and like, that had some good parts. Maybe a good idea here or there, but no, the movie, which I think we can probably bring up, it was like, oh, here's an interesting question: what lessons can we like? Aside from don't suck, what lessons can we take specifically from that movie and say, what can we learn from this movie, putting it into, as far as adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender as a live action thing? What lessons can we learn from that?
Don't cast people solely on martial arts ability, and
Oh yeah, because that's what they cast the
instead-
Aang. Yeah, the Aang.
Yes.
The Aang actor. He was a decent martial artist, and they're like, "Yep, you're Aang."
That's
I don't know that there are very many lessons because like it wasn't just like it was just all low quality everything. Like the lesson is just do better than they did. Like that
I
acting needed to be better. The
I think
transitions.
you can make a point out of that though. Is like, don't expect it to be good because you have like a good story and a good plot, and actually put the effort into
That's fair.
making it a good show.
That's fair.
if we want to get into the nitty gritty detail, one thing that I think that they should take from that is the way how fighting works with the bending. Like the way the movie did it, it was a person will do a bunch of actions, and then the
Like
bending happens.
casting a spell almost.
I was gonna say like a Street
Yeah.
Fighter, you hit like down, down, forward,
Yeah.
A, and then the Hadouken comes out. That's
And
how
then-
the
yeah.
fire bend.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah,
accurate.
making it more fluid and as
Like as part of the
Yeah.
action, like you move your fist, and as you're moving the fist, like the fire is flowing around.
I mean,
doing things.
I 100% think they should just do it how the show did it.
I know.
And,
I'm just saying that's
they'll
something
just
that they
have
might
the
not.
CGI budget to make that work.
Mhm.
Whereas I
I'm
don't
just saying
think
that's something that
Shimano
they
will
might
do.
miss. Like I think they had the budget for the movie. That movie had a surprisingly huge budget. It's just that
What
it
did
was
they use
mismatched.
it on?
Bad CGI oppa that would give nightmares to the people who have watched Where the Wild Things Are live
Oh,
action.
that's a good point. You remember all the discussions about how expensive it was to make Ghost in
Yeah.
Game of Thrones? Dude,
Yeah.
Appa's gotta be a fucking nightmare to actually do well.
probably.
I mean,
We'll see.
here's the question: could they, depending on how good the CGI is?
Claymation Appa.
or- I'd watch it, but no. Could they do for example, the scene-
Everything else is live action,
Like,
but
for
just
the- like, for the-
claymation opera.
like for the scenes where they're just in Appa's saddle and talking?
I-
Could they do some?
I think they would just
more
have a
realistic-
carpet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they would have a carpet.
A
They
magic
have
carpet.
a pet
And
piece
you
for
could
that.
probably
Yeah.
definitely have a really cool scene where you go over Appa and Aang when they're in the iceberg, have
Actually,
Appa come out,
That brings
and then
up a
just like
question.
zoom in on Appa and never have his full
that just
frame.
that just made me realize something. How far can they go as far as the practical effects when it comes to bending? How much can they do with actual pyrotechnics when it comes to fire bending as
That's gonna
opposed
be
to
interesting.
Are we
because-
throwing rocks at people? Because I want to throw rocks at
Probably
people. That sounds
not
like a dope job.
much.
again Nick is the rock guy.
Because the fire, the fire bending in the show, fire did not behave the way fire would behave.
Yeah.
It didn't.
But
It
But
didn't
you
move
can
in fire.
fix that. I think the biggest thing that
yeah.
I think the fire is gonna be mostly CGI. I think it's the effect of the bending that has on the person, the force that it seems to, the
True.
momentum that it has when it hits someone. Whenever I see someone get hit by air blast or by fire blast, that's a lot of force
Yeah.
from air that gets pushed onto someone that would have them do that. Which I feel like would look weird in real life.
And it actually brings up Arjo. I think mentioned this before. The way airbending is designed to look in Avatar: The Last Airbender, you're not supposed to be able to see the air.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you think they're going to do that as far as the live action?
I definitely think they should have some sort of particle effects. I don't think they should have nothing.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a lot of just random particulates, like leaves on the ground, dust
Right.
moving,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. It's not going to overtly just make whooshing noises and have some lines in the air or
Yeah.
something like that.
It's not like Ewan
But-
McGregor with lightsaber. Apparently they had to keep reshooting things in the prequel Star Wars movies because Ewan McGregor, he keeps making lightsaber noises as he swings things around.
It gets them in character,
Perfect.
right?
Perfect.
I can imagine the Avatar
But-
actors. Whoosh, whoosh.
Okay, we're
whoosh,
talking a lot
whoosh.
about effects and stuff. I think we could just trust that the people working on it would probably know
Sure.
what they're doing.
Yeah, no,
one
I mean,
thing-
we're not saying that's
No,
the way to do it. We're just,
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It's just we're almost at an
Yeah.
hour now. I did want to bring up stuff to change. I want to talk about the ending. So you guys know my
The ending
thoughts
of
on
the- wait, the
ending,
ending
so
of
you
the
can go
entire
first.
series,
I
or,
will say what
which
I
ending?
think about the ending, but you guys go ahead. Do you think there's stuff that you would want to change about the way the final resolution works out?
Let's talk about the lion turtle in the room. The lion
Yeah.
turtle.
So
Because-
there are. I don't like the lion turtle. Apparently I didn't realize this, but a lot of people feel like that was kind of convenient.
Very.
Do
I mean-
you think it should still end with Aang instead of killing the Fire Lord, just taking his bending away?
Even if they don't take his bending away, I don't think Aang should kill the Fire Lord. I
You
think
don't?
part of what makes Aang an interesting character is that, especially near the end, where everyone is telling him, you need to kill him. It's for the fate of the world. The people will forgive you. But Aang is, from the very get-go, we've seen Aang is this strict pacifist. And I think the fact that he manages to, against the weight of the world, stick with his convictions and come to a resolution that no one, not even his own past lives, thought was possible, speaks more volume to his character.
Sure,
as
okay,
far
but
as what he-
the actual what other resolution would you want to find if there's not a lion turtle? to give him the plot hack.
I mean, this is gonna be the thing.
Because
I think the line turtle could work
he did
if
not
they hinted.
to just caveat what you're saying. He did not find a way to keep to his convictions. It was given to him. So like, how would you change it to get rid of the lion turtle problem?
Well, honestly, I think you can keep the lion turtle, but there's two things you need to do. Number one, hint at it way earlier. You can't just drop like, "Hey, giant lion turtle," and say, "Oh no, we talked about it. There's a single picture in that one book in the library." That totally sounds like no. There has to be something like hinting at way earlier. Number two, as you were talking about, it was a very passive thing on Aang's part. I'd say Aang actually has to go out and find this thing. It has to be a journey that he takes as a character. Yeah. Heck, it could even be even if we want a lion turtle equivalent, it could be a spirit world journey. That would explain why Aang, like the rest of the gang, is there. Like Aang delves into the spirit world to like find some answer from like an even older spirit, like before the age of the Avatar, sort of thing.
Talking about like putting things together and making them concise, like you could even try and bring the guru, whose name escapes me right now,
Guru Patik.
Guru Patik, where he's giving something up in this journey to gain that ability to stick to his convictions. If they're saying they don't want romance, or they want more romance, I wouldn't mind just not seeing him pursue like Katara at all, to be able to actually gain that ability, like to unlock that ability. And like once he does it, and like maybe he feels bad or realizes he doesn't need it anymore, and then he can go back and pursue Katara or something. I don't know.
On the idea of giving something away, for all your Full Metal Alchemist fans, this might bring out something up. This is just a wild idea I had right now. What if doing this in the process of taking away someone's bending, the price Aang has to pay is his own bending? Like, would he give up his role as the Avatar to stick with his conviction, sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting. And whether like
I don't think I'd like that personally, but it would be interesting.
It's kind of like double-edged. Like he's shirking his responsibility to the world as the Avatar by giving up that power, but then at the same time, like his biggest responsibility is stopping the Fire Lord. So that's like an interesting little is it worth it kind of thing. But
it's just a regular
I'm curious.
It's a series that because Full Metal Alchemist just is a series that I've heard a lot of comparisons between it and Avatar, not necessarily in the way the story is structured, but just the general feeling that you get when you watch it. So that was just something that popped into my head.
So I'm curious. I disagree. With I would like to see Aang kill the Fire Lord, and because to me one of the most interesting ways to develop characters is to give them lines, and then force them into situations where they have to cross it or lose something, right? And I'm curious, Robbie. So you think this Aang not killing people is like a quintessential Aang thing, and I'm curious how you feel about Batman killing the Joker. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I think it's a very much similar situation. The fact that
because I liked Batman killing the Joker. I'm curious, did you not like it? Because
it depends how it's done. Like, I don't want Batman to go out and like just finally break down. Like, the only way to solve this situation is to murder the Joker.
You know the context. He had to he felt he.
If you're talking about if you're talking about like
the killing
what
joke.
Context are we talking about? Okay, Killing Joke. There's a lot of interpretations over as to whether Batman ends up killing him or not. It's but as far I think the Killing Joke works. The Killing Joke works because it's standalone. Like, I would not want that in like the way the Killing Joke is designed. It's supposed to sit in a standalone situation. I think it's an interesting idea. Do I want that to be like the culmination of it though? No, I don't think so. So that's where I stand on that. Like, it's something I like to see.
Are you saying that with like in keeping in like to keep the comic continuity go? Because like
I think he's
like
saying
Avatar
that
is a story that has an end. So like this
not just going on, but I don't want that to be the be all end all of where the Batman Joker relationship ends. Okay. I thought it was an interesting idea. I really liked what Alan Moore. I like Alan Moore's writing in general, but I really like what they did with that.
So
but I don't think
put it in context of Avatar. It's like, because it's the culmination of the whole series, that wouldn't make sense if it were if it were a movie, for instance, where he killed the Fire Lord. That was like not separate, but side by side with the canon.
I feel like it would be I feel like it's a betrayal of the audience almost at that point. Right, if Aang ends up being driven to kill the Fire Lord.
So what I had I was thinking this under the assumption, like, if they don't do the lion turtle thing, and Aang is trying to, like, he doesn't have a way to take away the Fire Lord's bending. He's just trying. I would assume if he doesn't have that, Aang's trying to talk him down instead, right? Like that would be his.
That seems like an Aang
And
thing
I would like
too.
to see the final fight, or like the final confrontation, happen in a completely different place. I would like to see the Fire Nation ships get to the Earth Kingdom and like be threatening people, and I would like to see Aang and the Fire Lord fighting in the streets, and like you could do rule of threes 3 times. Aang has the opportunity to stop the Fire Lord, to like kill him or whatever, and he chooses not to, and instead says, "Can we please stop?" You know, like whatever.
Like a bending thing, a redirect lightning thing, an Avatar state,
exactly.
like 1, 2, 3.
And then 2 times he chooses not to, and the Fire Lord keeps fighting, and people get hurt because of it. You could do hurt or killed. I don't know how dark they're gonna go. I assume killed, but like people start getting hurt because Aang is holding back and not wanting to kill the Fire Lord. And then 3rd time happens, and he's like, "I see you cannot be reasoned with. I have to sacrifice my personal convictions to help other people." Like I would like to see him like realize that like the line he's drawn for himself doesn't fit in the world the way it is.
That could make sense in the context you've described. Like that's everything I've thought to up to this point is under the assumption that they will be fighting somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Right. I would like to see there be more stakes.
That would be interesting.
Also for the Fire Nation ships and stuff, like it seems strange to me. Like this was a 100-year-long war that affected the entire world, and the final fight was 4 kids running around doing shit, single-handedly stopping the invasion.
Sure.
Which it's like superheroes. Like sure they did it, but like for the darker Netflix adaptation, like I would like to see there be more stakes and more consequence.
Sure. And I think that could be done
and more people involved.
For me, I think we talked about this before. The whole point of the Avatar: Last Airbender was Aang was not ready. That kept getting brought up so many times. He wasn't ready. He was not on the level of the Fire Lord, and that's why he needed the Avatar state, and he needed the Lion Turtle to be able to give him that ability. He didn't.
Well, the Lion Turtle giving him that ability was something he only used after he had won. So I wouldn't put that in with the ready thing. But
if he didn't take my bidding or he didn't kill him there, he probably would have just come back either breaking out of jail or whatever. So he had to have some way to put a stop to it. Like he would have still been the Fire Lord in the eyes of the Fire Nation probably. I think the point of the series is that he could not do it. He was not ready. He never was ready. He was never going to be ready in this timeline. What I would like to see change is he still doesn't kill the Fire Lord, but like there's a guilt of I wasn't strong enough. I couldn't do it. I had to cheat, not cheat, but
why
I had to rely
guilty?
on something else.
Well, like what would be making him feel guilty?
He wasn't ready. He had to rely on other people or other things that something that had.
I mean, that doesn't
Sure, but why would he feel the end result
like,
is exactly what he wanted? Why would
Aang was totally cool
Sure.
with his friends coming and helping him. I don't think Aang would be the type of character who would be like, "Oh, I had to cheat to get here." I think Aang would be totally cool with that.
I don't think you let the friends come help him at all. I think you
so
let the friends take care of the ships.
What would he feel guilty over?
I don't know. I don't know. But I would still not like to see him kill the Fire Lord. I don't think it fits his character, even if he's pushed to it. Like if he's in the situation you're talking about, sure, I can see him doing that, but he wasn't. Or I don't know if they're going to be.
And actually,
you can put him in that situation.
You can do a lot of things technically.
Yeah.
And I would also say I would like to also see that because we've already seen the other version. We've seen the version where he gets what he wants and keeps his convictions. I think it would be interesting to see Aang.
You can also have the Fire Lord get away because he wasn't strong enough and kill a friend or kill other people,
and
while he's not able to achieve his thing or achieve his goal.
I mean, maybe if you want to see Aang kill someone and feel guilty over and break his convictions, I think you could do it a lot earlier in the series, and there's a prime candidate for it, Admiral Zhao.
I don't think Zhao's was his. There was not enough connection between Zhao and Aang.
It doesn't matter that's connection between Zhao and Aang.
No.
I'm saying, what if
I'm saying if it's going to be Aang's first and only kill, it needs to be something that matters a lot to Aang and is tied to Aang a lot. And I think the Fire Lord is the best. Like the whole show is Aang, you must stop the Fire Lord. Like if there's going to be one person Aang kills, it should be the Fire Lord. I don't think
Zhao could work. I don't think that's necessarily true because there's literally only one point when the Fire Lord and Aang actually interact.
Mm-hmm.
Up to that point, while Zhao, meanwhile, has multiple points where
He's
But that
straight up like
doesn't,
Team
that
Rocket
doesn't
Aang
mean the
about-
Fire Lord is irrelevant. Like they
I know.
only interact once, but the Fire Lord is a huge part of Aang's life.
No,
Yes, that's
And
not
so
true.
is Zhao throughout all
But-
of book 1.
If Aang is given an opportunity where he has to kill Admiral Zhao in order to end something, and
Like
then
maybe he's
that
about to kill Sokka or Katara. or
could be
something
a
like that.
massive character development for Aang and lead into how he acts for the
Yeah.
rest of the show.
And also could be
That
the
kind of
point
thing.
that triggers him to look for ways to not have to kill people in the future.
That could be,
Mhm.
yeah. I like
you
that
know,
would be interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
now that we're
that would be cool.
Uh-huh. And something that you mentioned earlier that I really want to dive into. You mentioned that Aang would try to talk down the Fire Lord. Now, the only way I could see that happening is if we get more expansion on the Fire Lord's character.
Sure.
Which is something I want to see. Because the Fire Lord, as cool as he is in concept, he's not a character. He is a force of nature that is an antagonist
He's a
for the main
Palpatine,
character.
like
Yes.
or a Sauron. Like he's just bad to be bad.
And if you're wondering, they do expand on him in the comics, but all they do is show how much more dickish he actually is.
Sounds about right. So,
Yeah,
I think, did you have something else?
No, I was
Yeah,
going to say, I
Nick.
think that sums up kind of everything that
Mhm.
we have been looking forward to, / want to see out
Yeah.
of the adaptation.
That's,
There's a lot of different ways it could go that could still
I'm
be good.
tentatively positive
Right.
about the show. I want it to be good. I want to enjoy watching it, that kind of thing. How about y'all? Are you looking
I'm gonna
forward
watch it,
to
but I see it as a
Are you
coin flip.
just... Yeah.
So I'm not. I think like the last thing
you
to
saw
talk
it.
about would actually be a
saw
good in terms of what Nick said before about the creators leaving, the original creators leaving the Netflix adaptation and stuff. That was not too big a deal to me because they cited like creative differences and like I want this show to be different, but Nick brought up a great point when we were talking about it earlier of like there's a difference between them starting with a vision in mind that the creators didn't agree with, or like they started with something the creators like and it has changed over time, and that might mean that like there's not a cohesive vision for the
That's
end
what's
product
most
of the show.
worrying.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that is
what's
very
worrying to
worrying.
me. But I feel like you can't judge it until it comes out, like, or until we know we're in film. Which
And I think that is dependent on whether it has a cohesive. Like I was looking at some reviews of Avatar: The Last Airbender all the way back from book, like when it was halfway through book 1. Even then, they mentioned like we're going to do about 60 episodes. It's going to be broken up into 3 parts. They had the roadmap from the start, which I think is a very important thing
very,
for
very
any
important.
story. Like you need
Yeah.
to know where the story is. Like, look at the Star Wars sequels trilogy. Enough said.
Thanks. Some great visuals. There's some great visuals there.
Great
yeah.
visuals.
Great visuals, but no one had any idea where it was going. And each time something new happened, they kept switching it around. I think they need that one vision, that one cohesive idea. We're going from this to this to this, and this is how we're subdividing it.
Right.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
definitely.
I am looking forward to it. Like you were asking, I still would rather see a Legend of Korra remake instead because that was not told as well as Avatar or Airbender. And I'm curious what their target, like what the target audience for this Netflix adaptation is.
I think that'll be more clear once we actually get like a preview or anything.
Yeah.
Like the tone and target audience should hopefully be clear, like into how it's presented.
So
Like, are
how
they going
the
after the original
advertising
fans,
works.
or are they trying to expand audience?
What would the target audience you would like to be? Yeah, that made sense, right?
What we
Like,
like-
what are
what we
you
would like to
what are
see,
you hoping
yeah.
for it to be? Because a lot of people apparently are still wanting it to be a kid show, and I'm curious if you guys want it to have aged up with us,
No,
like we're thinking.
I
Because
think-
I'm down for it aging up with us, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's clear if they're aging up the characters and they're talking about it being a more serious. Well, I don't think they said serious, but just a more gritty.
I mean, based on what they said, I think
So?
you can say more serious. You know, with the violence and sex and all
Well,
that.
Is that what you
can
want?
be
though, is what
comedic,
I'm-
but
is what
I
I'm
mean,
wondering.
yeah.
it's. I think that's kind of assumed that it will. I think that's the direction they're going in. That's kind of why I'm tentatively excited about it.
Mhm.
It's could be good, could be bad, could just be just bait for getting clicks because it's Avatar and then it's a mediocre show, that kind of thing.
Would you be more excited about it if it was more like the original? Like, is that what you're saying? Like the aging up is what makes you tentative? Is that what you meant?
I don't know. I think I'm just tentative that it's
being made at all.
Being made.
Yeah.
We've been hurt in the past. We know to be tentative.
Yeah, like every time I think live action adaptation, I see in the back of my mind those 6 Earthbenders doing that dramatic posing, and then a single rock floating slowly. Again, the people who have experienced the utter tragedy of that movie know exactly what scene I'm talking about here.
Yeah. And with that, I think that's as good a stopping point as any for this Avatar discussion. So I'd like to thank...
This is going to be part 1.
Part 1. Yeah, we're continuing at some point. So I'd like to thank anyone who's listened so far to our ramblings. Good job. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, email us at the1d4podcast@gmail.com.
Actually, keep your concerns to yourself.
If you have complaints about all of Arjo's scenarios, go ahead, forward that right to us.
Yeah. We'll look at that, and we will hopefully be back next week sometime.
Like, comment, and subscribe. We gotta remember
comment, and subscribe.
Of course.
Smash that like button.
I'll make sure that you have notifications.
Give it the double
tap.
Hit the bell. Yeah. So
look at us, actual YouTubers. Good job, guys.
Yeah.